This is the Flabbergasted Podcast, where we just can't believe you haven't seen it. Every episode, we discuss a movie that one of us has seen and the other hasn't. Follow us on Instagram at FlabberPod and subscribe in your podcast app of choice. I'm your host, Rogge. Let's get to it. This week, we are discussing Fantastic Mr. Fox. Fantastic Mr. Fox is a 2009 animated film directed by Wes Anderson. Fantastic Mr. Fox is a movie in which an urbane fox cannot resist returning to his farm raiding ways and then must help his community survive the farmer's retaliation. Jess, how had you not seen Fantastic Mr. Fox before?
Okay, well, if you really want to know this right now, it's going to skip into our content later on.
Okay.
You want to save it?
No, let's not step on it. Okay. Yeah, we'll save it a little bit here. This is a movie that I really like. I first saw this movie about 2 years ago. I got into Wes Anderson films a little bit. We'd seen Grand Budapest Hotel just while we were like house sitting for someone, pulled it off their DVD shelf. I was like, oh, I like this. And then I went and saw Isle of Dogs by myself in the theater randomly. So it'll probably surprise no former listeners of A Muggle's Perspective that I give off Wes Anderson fan vibes. It seems like the kinds of movies that I would like. So that was the first time. It was just a couple of years ago. I think it's really fun. I love the animation, and I'm going to be interested to see what you think about it.
So you sought this movie out?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Originally. Like the first time I saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love lists, and I have a big list of movies I want to watch, and one of the categories is Wes Anderson films that I haven't seen. So far I've seen Grand Budapest Hotel, this, Isle of Dogs, and Moonrise Kingdom. But there's not one streaming service where they're all available, or we have logins to all of them, but a lot of them are still paid. So I'm kind of still working my way through being able to see all of those.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like to pick an auteur. I'm trying to see a lot of the Tarantino films now. Once I found out that I liked those, I tried to pick one and then sort of complete that pocket, that category, if possible. Did you have a history with Wes Anderson at all? Have you seen any of the other ones?
I've seen the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to get that confused with another one, so I can't tell you what one's about.
I've also seen Darjeeling Limited. That's another one that I've seen.
I don't always recognize them by producer, director. That's not the first thing I think when I see a movie. Actually, if that's something I notice when I see a movie, it's just doesn't happen very often. It's
Gotcha.
very few and far between. I did recognize a lot of the cast, though. They were sort of doing voices, but not quite doing voices. Mm-hmm. So I had to look a lot of them up. I'm like, ooh, that sounds familiar. And the one guy who, Mr. Bean...
Mm-hmm.
Farmer Bean,
yes,
is the guy from Harry Potter.
Yes, I had a whole note about that. I was like, is Bean played by Ian McKellen, who's Gandalf in Lord of the Rings? And then I was trying to figure it. It was almost Ian McKellen. I couldn't place it, but yeah, I did find out that.
I was like, I know his voice, but I couldn't think of anything he did, and that was it. And I was like, ooh, gotta mention that.
Yeah,
and I thought it was Meryl Streep, but I was like, yeah, that's her. And then I'm like, no, that's not her.
Yeah, I wasn't 100%. There's going to be a lot of that.
Yes.
That's the guy. I recognize him from that.
Yes.
I think especially as we kind of get into what the format for the show is going to be, and we're doing two pairs of episodes, and then maybe eventually daisy chaining them, going from George
Which I just
Clooney
thought
in
of
this
that.
one. Yeah,
because there's another person who I can't think of right off the top of my head in this movie that's in one of our future episodes.
Good. Yeah, my notes, I'm always going back and forth between calling them by their character's name or the actor's name.
Yes.
George Clooney is always just George Clooney, but, Bean was still Mr. Bean or whatever. That's funny. I'm the same as you with I don't necessarily know every director and all that kind of stuff, but with the Wes Anderson films, I feel there's definitely a through line, more than any other director, even probably more than Tarantino, where I watched Grand Budapest Hotel and I was like, oh, that gives me a certain itch. And then Fantastic Mr. Fox scratches that itch. It's you can tell, I can tell they're made by the same person. It's twee.
Interesting.
He is so individual. Wes Anderson is so has this snappy, just weird twee style that resonates with me for some reason. So were you looking forward to seeing this for podcast purposes, or were you dreading it?
I was like, we needed a movie. This is the movie that worked out. And I'm like, yeah, let's see it, because I've heard good things about it, but I had not ever seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And basically going into it, all I knew is George Clooney and that it's animated.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I knew about it. The reason I have not seen it was because I want to be very careful, because I recognize that a lot of work goes into an animated film, period.
Oh, no.
And then, but this is like the, what is it called? The stop.
It's like it's stop motion adjacent. Like, I don't think it is stop motion, but it like is reminiscent of that style, kind of. Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't hate that, but it's definitely a vibe.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Like, there's definitely a style.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting, but that's why I hadn't seen it, because it just wasn't like enough.
You'd like softly avoided it. Like, oh, that's that animated one. I'm not super into it. Yeah.
And I hadn't heard any like amazing, great things about it. I mean, I haven't heard horrible things about it, but when it first came out, nobody was like, oh my gosh, you have to see this film. And then it sort of just became one of those films that I hadn't ever seen.
Gotcha. Yeah. When it first came out, I was like a junior in high school. So we weren't having like conversations about like, oh, this director is like has a new film out or whatever. So it'll be interesting to kind of hear like, you know, you remember it first coming out even, which is different from me. And so like there will be, you know, as we keep going, there'll be different movies that it fully is stop motion. Okay. Interesting.
So a note from our producer, if you couldn't hear him.
Producer Jeremy jumping in. Long-time Muggles Perspective heads will recognize that voice possibly. Awesome. Well, let's get into kind of some of the notable scenes. I've got a lot of notes on this movie, just my thoughts. So if anyone was hoping to ever just get a running inner dialogue from my brain while watching a film, this is going to be at least a couple weeks, a couple episodes for you before I get dialed in here on exactly what we want to do with this. But I will start off with my first note.
Wait.
Oh, no,
was
you've
it within
got
like the first
pre-note notes.
Oh, okay. Because I have something that I
yes,
noted.
Kind of, yes. Oh, yeah, you can go for it.
Oh, okay. I was really annoyed.
Great.
Because
love that.
He asks a question, and I won't get the specific question right, but he's like, what do you want to do? And his wife is like, well, let's do this. And he's like,
and then he
could do this.
He had a plan in mind,
yeah,
and then kept
he did it like
diverting her
3 times. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, just don't ask the question.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. That was my note. That was really annoying.
Yeah, that was
right away.
I mean, this is definitely not a film where the protagonist is like, we're meant to think that he is perfect, you know, like especially, I mean, she slaps him and he's like, that was justified later on. Like
he has a journey.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And he certainly doesn't even come out of it like, you know, fully realized as being perfect at the end too. But yeah, he definitely, what route do you want to take? No, let's take that one. But what if these two? Okay. Actually that one's fast. Like he definitely like, there's a flow chart and he's diverting like the Pong, what's the Plinko chip, like into the right one that he wants, for sure.
Yes.
I did like that scene. I called that the stealing squab montage. A lot of montages in this movie. I don't know how you feel about a montage.
They're entertaining. I don't hate them.
Any of those where it kind of panned out and went 2D and they're just like running across like a field and, you know, playing on the like clothesline and dodging under things, like that was just very fun and whimsical for me.
Roof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked all of that's the first example like that I really enjoyed.
I was really I was intrigued when he was right at the beginning when he's like, oh, this is a trap. And he's like, honey, you're going to want to move. The cage is going to drop right there. Then he pulls the thing. Like, I was like, oh yeah, it's going to drop right there. Okay. So he's savvy. Like he's got it all figured out, and he sort of does, but not also. Just
the hubris of Mr. Fox. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was excited that he was going to be like all like know it all, but then he wasn't. And that was also okay too, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you still, the whole time you definitely think that he is smart and like respect his cunning and planning and stuff, but it's good that he's fallible too. For sure. I loved his whistling tick. I can't whistle, but his thing, like his snap thing that he does, can you do it? I can't. I
cannot do it. Everybody would cry and they would never listen again. But along those lines, I don't remember what animal Kylie is, but I like that he
The
does.
opossum. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I like what he does at the end, and he's like, "Oh, that's your trademark."
Yeah.
And like, I like that one.
Okay, that's your thing. Yeah, he like spins around and like claps or something.
And like does like a jazz hand or something like, ha.
Yeah. Well, and Ash has a little bit of one too, doesn't he? The sun, where he tries to mimic him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I think he was my favorite character, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. He is maybe one of my least favorite characters. That's so fun.
I like that he's like super, which is very ironic because I don't like super moody people in person. Oh, I shouldn't say I don't like super moody people in person. I'd say I have a low tolerance for super moody people if I don't understand them.
Well, he's like a preteen.
Yes.
And so there's an automatic built-in like, okay, he's a preteen. Like that explains the moodiness. Yeah.
But he's also like, I don't know. He doesn't know what he doesn't know himself, but he does.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He knows a version of himself that he wants to be for sure. Wants to be an athlete.
Yes, for sure.
I wrote down that I love every time the animals do something super wild. Like in some ways they're very buttoned up and domesticated and wearing like shirts and ties and stuff. And then he sits under a plate of waffles and just like, and like trashes it everywhere. Like that dichotomy from when the foxes are like, the weasel has a cell phone, but then also like they don't eat stuff with a knife and fork. Like they're wild animals in some ways. I think that's it. I like both ends of the spectrum. Like when they're being super human almost. Yeah. Versus super like wild animal.
I like when they're in he's the badger lawyer's office and they're like, are you cussing me? Yeah. And then they like circle the table like 4 times yelling at each other. And then they just sit down and they're fine again.
That's one of my, if I made a list of my 5 most memorable scenes, that would definitely be on there. I really like that one.
I did mention that I do like that instead of using a swear word, they just say cuss, which is ridiculous, but also very funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so good.
I appreciated that.
Well, that's going to come up here soon on my list of running bits. We've already touched on several of them. The whistling tick, I think, is fun. I like a bit that I can notice. I feel smart noticing, that's just like what he did earlier. And this movie had a lot of them. Because we had the whistling tick, the montages, we had Sane Cuss, and then I put Kylie, the opossum, zoning out. Like his
with his eyes get spirally.
Yeah.
Which is that like a possum thing? Is that supposed to be
I don't know if it just connects to like them playing dead or something.
Oh.
Maybe. I'm not a big possum guy. We had a possum attack our dog once when I was young, and so I've like had an adversarial relationship with possums ever since.
They are kind of freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The red eyes, right? Am I thinking of the right animal? They don't look exactly like Kylie. Well, there's possums and there's opossums. Are those different? Is this another rutabaga turnip situation?
I think they're the same thing. You just don't pronounce the O or you do. Right. But producer Jeremy's looking it up. I can tell right now.
Producer Jeremy has somehow stood in all 4 corners of this room since we started podcasting. It's been very amusing. This is good. We have like a stat boy. Have you guys ever seen like PTI? That's maybe too sportsy. Possum and opossum interchange. Actually, they do actually refer to different animal groups.
Ooh.
In most casual writing, it doesn't mean a difference. They're both marsupials. Opossums are specifically North America, whereas possum is Australian. Okay. Well, there weren't any Australian accents, I don't think, so this must have been an opossum. That makes sense.
But speaking of different countries, I did notice that the driving was on the steering wheel was on the right side of the cars.
Right. Interesting.
Which I didn't actually recognize many other tidbits that they weren't in.
Yeah, I mean, there's just the general weird food stuff. Like, there's a lot of, like, the goose liver donuts and...
I mean, is that a real cider food? I thought that was just, like, a weird food.
I could see British people eat weird food. I could see it being almost a Britism. And the humans, the 3 farmers, I feel like did have British accents. So maybe it's supposed to be set...
the one guy is definitely British.
Yeah, Michael Gambon for sure. Were there any other running bits that I missed? Sane Cuss, the whistling and ticks, the montages, and Kylie zoning out. The rat had a tick as well. He like snapped his fingers or something.
I like him, and that was William Dafoe.
It was William Dafoe.
But it didn't sound like him.
No, I didn't notice it till afterwards.
Great.
Yeah,
like,
especially as a villain.
He should go on our list of movies I'm writing
Willem Dafoe movies.
Yeah.
That's going to be have to be in your wheelhouse because I have not seen a ton of
Willem Dafoe
movies.
Exciting.
Like I've not even seen the early Spider-Man movies where he's Green Goblin. And besides that, I don't think I can tell you for sure that like, oh, that's a Willem Dafoe movie.
So that's funny. This is something that I was talking about with some people earlier. They're like, why are you watching this? I'm like, well, we're doing a podcast. And they're like, well, like I said, it has to have George Clooney in it. So we have these parameters set up that.
So now they think we're just doing a George Clooney movie podcast.
Yeah. We picked somebody and then.
Watching Up in the Air next week.
Rogge picked a movie with that actor that he's never seen that I have seen. And then I picked a movie with that actor that Rogge's seen that I've never seen. Yeah. So that's how we kind of settled on.
We're making it as difficult as possible to choose the movies. Okay, you pick one for me and then I'll pick one. Let's just have Rachel and Jeremy pick the movies.
That's how we settled on Fantastic Mr. Fox, which was kind of interesting, but also they made the point and now I'm a little worried. I'm going to be getting all these very vague-ish movies that I've never seen because I've seen a lot of movies.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point. I mean, I have also seen a lot of movies, maybe not as many as you, but like
it will keep
that's
it
the whole
interesting,
deal.
right?
Like, the whole podcast is you watch movies you haven't seen. Sorry.
Yes. No, I love it. I think it'll keep it interesting.
Yeah. Yes.
But also, well, I'll wait. I'll hold that for the end of the podcast.
Well, because I don't know if you listen to other movie podcasts at all, but there's a lot of different ways we can do it. Like right now we're just doing the same actor thing, but we can daisy chain, we can do theme months. Like the only thing that matters is it has to be a legal drama movie that you haven't seen or a rom-com, or I mean, the theme can be outer space. Like the theme can be anything, right?
Yeah.
So I think there will be, and once we get listener suggestions in as well, there'll be a lot of really cool ways that we can go about it to hopefully keep everything fresh.
I like this way as we're starting out.
Yeah.
I think it'll help.
And to give some consistency 1-to-1 and be able to kind of compare those roles and things like that, I think will be good.
What I didn't understand about this movie is he goes to view the tree and Kylie's doing some kind of work.
He's
on
like
the
plumbing
sink.
the kitchen sink or something. Yeah.
And then in the next scene, he's like the best friend.
No, they're just best friends.
And by the end of the movie, he's one of the most important people in Mr. Fox's life. And I'm like, I don't understand why you're here.
I didn't understand that either. Yeah. He just like, I feel like my interpretation is that he looked out the window. He actually wanted to go and just buy the tree, but then he looked out the window and realized it was right next to the farms. And I was like, oh man, okay. And then
the tree at the beginning of the movie?
Wow. I didn't even think about that. I wouldn't necessarily assume yes, but maybe because it was
like the way they showed
when
it.
He's listening to his Walkman. Yeah, it could have been because then obviously they were right next to the farms at that point.
Okay,
so,
just a side note. It was weird. But anyways, he was looking at the tree.
Looking at the tree, he sees the farms, and I feel like that's when the idea kind of snapped, and then he just turns and sees Kylie, and he's like, great, there's also a person to help me. Like he just kind of like associated them together just because they were both like right in front of him, and he just was so excited about doing the heist. That's kind of the best explanation I've got, I think.
Yeah. The other thing, I don't know if this was a running bit, but I liked when he was first breaking down the plan and Kylie's like asking questions. He's like, stop asking questions. This is the plan.
Yeah. Or the wolf. I mention the wolf thing. Kylie keeps bringing up the wolf. Yeah.
Yes. And then at the end they see a wolf, which was weird, but I also liked it.
It was almost like a Japanese Samurai Jack kind of influence.
Yeah. And his animation was very different.
Yes.
Yeah, I did like that.
They were super respectful to him.
I don't think he speaks Latin or English.
Or French.
Yeah.
I do like when he just starts
I have a phobia of wolves.
He does keep saying phobia. Yeah. It's a good movie. It's fun. We've got more heists. I kind of listed them all as heists. The Bogus heist, the Bean heist. I didn't have anything specific for the Bunce heist. I just really enjoyed the music direction in this film. Like it went upbeat, like right at perfect times. It just made like that super fun, which can be almost cynical. Like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to like be excited now, or it's going slow. It's going to be sad. But like, it just really worked for me. You felt the same way.
I think music can like be amazing in a movie, and it was not bad. Like it didn't annoy me, so it worked.
Good. Yeah.
But it didn't distract me either, which is nice.
Now, does that same thing hold for Clooney's voice? I thought that they were able to match up, not just, the lip syncing, but that character of Fox. Like I wasn't just thinking, okay, it's just George Clooney walking around the whole time. Like it really blended nicely with that character for me. Was it just kind of a George Clooney thing for you?
I didn't like him.
The Mr. Fox?
Like at all.
Okay. Why not?
So, because he annoyed me. He just really, honestly.
Being dismissive.
Yes.
Taking over the toast from Badger when he's trying to give a toast.
Everything. And I'm like,
house.
Dude.
Yeah.
You're just ridiculous.
Yeah.
He seemed like he's a very selfish, self-centered character. And that was annoying. And I don't have anything else. Like.
But he's the best whack bat player that's ever played at that school.
Which that whole scene was hilarious. Yeah. And he's like, I'm have that same raw natural talent as my dad, right? And the coach is like, let's just say you're improving.
Yeah, let's not compare ourselves.
And then what the freak is whack bat? And he goes to explain it. And I did like the way they did that. He goes to explain it and it goes up to like the chalk.
Yes.
I don't know if it was a chalkboard, but like the little outline. And then I'm like, I don't even understand that, which you're not really supposed to. But that was entertaining. And then
Christopherson being so good at it immediately.
Yeah, immediately. Yeah. That was kind of entertaining. I didn't hate that character either, but I don't like the Fox character. No. It did not impact me that was George Clooney's voice.
Okay.
Although, just fun fact, I don't love George Clooney in everything he makes. Like, he's not in my top actor, but I don't dislike him either.
So we're going to have to do a whole episode of like just listing your 10 favorite actors and actresses and stuff.
That would be so hard.
Yeah, good.
I'll try to make a list. That would be really hard though.
We'll work on that. That'll be a long term. That'll be a stretch goal.
Yes.
Patrons only. I'm going to skip a few notes here. We don't want to get too bogged down. I have the note, does Ian McKellen play Bean? Which ended up not being true. They dig so fast. I always forget that whenever they start digging, it's just immediately like, they're like, are able to dig like just so fast. And it just really amuses me.
Okay.
Did that surprise you?
I mean, I just thought it was a choice.
Yeah, it is a choice. They had to make him mobile.
I just didn't understand that whole thing though.
About that
like,
the farmers were chasing them down and stuff?
Yes. I mean, I get it. Theoretically, the farmers are hunting them. But then they're also digging down under the land to get to them.
Foxes live in holes, yeah.
And I'm like, or you could just set a trap and wait for them.
Yeah, but
that's not really the movie.
That exact fox broke into 3 of their establishments, got through all their security measures and stuff like they knew they weren't dealing with. You know, the kind of fox just can walk into a trap.
I did.
And plus, they had so much fun with their tractors. Remember when they got their backhoes and the farmers were so happy about it?
That was fun.
And, just shifting gears and stuff.
Yeah. I did appreciate that. This was kind of twofold. I did appreciate that all the animals, when they finally connected, were like, everybody's in danger because of you.
Boss, what the frig? Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
But I also appreciated Christopherson sticking up for Ash when Big Bully was being a jerk. Like, because philosophically, you know, you should not be judged for the actions of somebody that you're close to. So I appreciated that, and I appreciated them calling him selfish. And I appreciated his wife slapping him.
Yeah.
Like, come on, get with it.
She said that she regretted marrying him.
I know, that's harsh.
It was not your traditional, like, hero's journey storytelling arc where it's like, you know, he starts at one place and just goes up. Like, it's definitely, like, more realistic, I think.
It's definitely you're there for the journey kind of thing. Like, because even by the end, it's not like he completely changed who he was. They just adapted to their different circumstances of living in a sewer.
Yeah, the ending's it'd be really interesting kind of when we get there specifically because like a bunch of storylines just don't necessarily there's like a lot of soft storylines like Christopherson dating that fox girl. Like they go to school and do chemistry. Like there's just little things that are like, yeah, this is, I mean, it's just something that's happening, but like, what is it about? I mean, I think the movie's about the megalomaniacal farmers maybe and like their single-minded pursuit of the fox, but also his inability to overcome his base inhibition or base urges and desire to steal. And it's like, do we all have that in us somewhere that we're always trying to tamp down because of society? I don't know. Or it could just be about foxes.
I don't know, because I was like, I don't even know what this movie is about, honestly. I literally, while I'm watching, I'm like, I don't even understand.
Right.
This is entertaining, but I do not know what's happening here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where I am with most Wes Anderson films, and that's okay with me. I don't always love knowing exactly what something's about, you know?
I think that's interesting, because I'm also like, well, you don't see the wife stealing birds, and she's also a fox.
Mm-hmm. So even within foxes, there's a grade of like how prone you would be to this or that. Or maybe it might not be about him being a fox. It's just like maybe if he was a rabbit, he would still be super into stealing stuff. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
A raccoon? It's surprising no raccoons. Seems like it would have fit.
So you said raccoons, and I don't know why, but it made me think of the little scene when they're in the sewer and they've got all the food. And the rabbit is like
a rat. That's okay.
Cooking.
Yeah.
And he's
just
like
yelling at them.
Yeah, like you would see in a real kitchen, which I thought was kind of entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a note about that. Like they all run from their homes like within seconds and then meet up. And then suddenly after that, they have a bunch of stuff. Like they have a whole kitchen.
We're a family.
They
it's
have,
cool.
you know, for like radios or whatever. They're able to like talk to each other and like big maps. And so the movie wasn't hung up on making super logical sense the whole time. And so I didn't realize until I finished watching it this time that it's based on a Roald Dahl book. Did you know that?
I knew it when I saw the opening credits, and I was like, oh, interesting.
I missed it in the opening credits even. Yeah, it kind of has that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory a little bit.
Yeah, vibe.
Yeah, of just like magic kind of is possible. Like, I mean, not everything has to be super realistic.
Nothing has to fit in the confines of what we're used to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really loved at the end, and I forgot to mention this scene, when they're basically pinned down and Ash gets to be the super athletic guy that releases the rabid dog.
Yes.
By the way, I didn't love that they're killing dogs with blueberries.
No, it was sleep powder.
Are you sure?
They just knocked him out.
They did the little X's on their eyes.
Yeah, it was just, well, he said it was sleep powder.
I know, but then they used the X's on the eyes when the rat died.
Yeah, but they did the circle thing with like Fox at one point when talking to Kylie, and so I don't know if I interpreted it as them falling asleep.
I'm just saying, if they're falling asleep, great. If they killed them, I don't love that. But I did like that Ash
killed chickens.
I don't love chickens as much as I love dogs.
Fair.
I do like that Ash let the rabid dog out and got to like do all the athletic stuff and jump over the whatever and make a whack bat and do all that thing.
Yeah, he did a really good job with
Oh,
that.
and I also thought it was really funny in the scene before that when he's talking to Christopherson and he's like, can you give me a real quick karate lesson?
Yes. Christopherson's like, yes. They just do it.
What is that all about?
Yeah.
And somebody that was watching a movie with me was like, why don't they just tip over the apple crate?
Yeah. They're preteen foxes. Like, they're idiots. That's kind of the point of it, right? Like, it just works fine when they do it the messed up way. But he's like, in his brain, he's like, I have to karate chop the lock off, which wouldn't have worked even if he had executed it properly.
No.
But 13-year-olds, it'd be like that with them sometimes. I really liked the face-off in the town, the distraction with them throwing all the pine cones and stuff.
Yes.
And then they took off in the motorcycle. I thought that was very fun. It doesn't make any sense to have all those resources. We already talked about that.
One of my favorite things that I loved, and I wrote it down, I got to find my other note, is when the guy is singing. So they're doing the hunt for them, doing the digging for them, and the guy is singing the song. And
mostly gibberish
and
banjo
Bean comes
song,
up and he's like, what are you doing? He's like,
Yeah.
I'm singing a song. I'm just kind of making up words. He's like, that's weak songwriting.
Yeah.
And I wrote that down because it's hilarious, because I listen to some music occasionally nowadays. And I'm like, somebody got paid to write this song, to write these lyrics, which is basically repeating the same line for 45 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
So that really resonated with me, that line.
You're honestly on the side of the farmers. I feel like you don't like the fox. You like their musical critiques. You're like, why they should have killed them. Those foxes were stealing. They got to go to fox jail.
I mean, I liked the other animals. I just didn't like Mr. Fox.
Gotcha.
Like, I'm on Mrs. Fox's
Okay,
side.
so you're not racist. You just didn't like him.
Animalist?
Speciesist, probably. I was going to ask about that song, the gibberish song scene. Was there any part of you that thought the movie was over?
Oh.
They did the heist, they got the stuff.
Montagey. which I thought was interesting. I was kind of like, why is this right here? Like, what is happening? Because I knew approximately how much was left.
How many times did you say what is happening
in
this whole movie?
Because I knew how much was left in the movie.
Spoiler alert for Monuments Men, I was not very often saying, what is happening?
Yeah, no, I didn't think it was over. I was just like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, that's fair. I have, my next 2 questions from now is, what is this movie about? But my next question is, does this movie give, you can say no, Christmas vibes for some reason? Like it seems a little Christmas movie-y, and maybe that's just the stop motion part of it.
No, I did not get any Christmas vibes.
No Christmas vibes? Like they get to the end and then they're in the store. Now they have all the stuff that they wanted and it's like, God bless us, everyone. No? Okay.
I mean, I guess I can see where
I don't know why I thought that.
You did feel that way though?
I was like, why does this feel like 15% like a Christmas movie to me right now?
I would not say I absolutely disagree with that statement. I would just say until you brought it up,
right.
I wouldn't have brought that up on my own. But
it's fair.
I can see where you're coming from.
It's fair. Yeah. And it's slight. It's not like I'm not out here like Die Hard is a Christmas movie, like in that kind of Die Hard movie I've never seen.
That will be on our list.
Yeah. Bruce Willis month. Oof. What Bruce Willis? Oh, that means, well, you've seen all the Oceans movies. I haven't seen a lot of Bruce Willis movies.
What are you talking about? Oceans
Bruce
movies?
Willis is in Oceans 12. Thank you. He has the cameo where he shows up at the hotel and is like hanging out with Julia Roberts, but she only is supposed to look like Julia Roberts. She's just pretending to be Julia Roberts, even though she really is Julia Roberts.
I forgot about him being in that.
Yeah. Does that count then? If she forgets that a character's in it, does that mean that we can then do it? We'll get a ruling on that one.
We'll look.
We'll get a ruling on. We'll look at the bylaws. So do we have any other notes or do we want to move on to awards?
Oh, I do have one more thing. Bean's the cider guy, yeah?
Correct, yes.
And I did like the scene in the heist. Actually, it's not really a scene, but he opens the top of the basement or the cellar door, cellar door, and he's smoking a cigarette and his face lights up. And I just thought, like, artistically, that looked really cool.
Yeah.
That's it. That was my only note for that.
No, I'm into it. A lot of this movie I thought looked really cool. Even, I mean, it's a 2009 film. And so I don't know if it's just that TVs are nicer or what, but like close-ups on Fox's face, I was like, it didn't look washed out or grainy to me. Like it looked good, I thought.
Yeah, visually, definitely good.
Yeah.
And again, I recognize the amount of work a film takes, period, and an animation film, a whole different type of work. And yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and it's not ever going to be everyone's cup of tea necessarily, but yeah, it's about recognizing the work for sure. So we are still nailing down exactly what these categories to look like. For the audience's sake here, we'll just kind of run down what we're thinking so far broadly. I've got best performance. I gave an award for worst performance. And then I have a most memorable scene. I think I have a couple of options for each. So if you listeners at home have ideas, thoughts for more categories, I know in other movie podcasts they'll do like, what trope was the most common one in this movie? Or like who was like there's best acting, who won the movie, those kinds of things. I mean, anything you can think of, definitely let us know in the appropriate channels. So did you have an award that you gave out for best performance in this film?
I think William Dafoe takes it.
Wow. In a bit role. I mean, he's in like 2 scenes.
But he was so uniquely not him, but him.
Okay.
So I could hear George Clooney.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see George Clooney.
Right.
I mean, I could see the fox, right? And I didn't like the character. So, Willem, my bad.
Right.
My bad.
I've been saying Willem.
Yeah. I just like that he was like very different and that was very fun for him. Of course, a lot of his roles are very quirky. Maybe, I don't know if I can actually say that.
Borderline villainous. I mean, he's
several roles.
Yeah.
I don't want to say a lot because I don't have the scientific data to back that up.
We'll need to crunch the numbers on that one.
Also, Meryl Streep, the fact that it was her, but it wasn't her for me. Like I couldn't tell, but I could tell.
Yeah.
That was pretty great too.
That's acting, right?
Yes.
That's showbiz. For me, I think I have written down animators because I think it's gorgeous and it holds up. And the foxes, like, their eyes tear up fairly often.
That
and sometimes
was
they cry and
good.
sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just that they're getting teary-eyed. it's split between animators and director, I think, for me. I really enjoyed the pace of the film. It never bogs down. And then in the moments that it does take a second to breathe are just really fun scenes that I like to be at. Like when they dive off of the tree branch, like just them getting to live in this house for a minute.
Yes.
I thought the pace was really good, and just the decisions to like bounce between all these different things and when to bring in different characters and things like that. It's an adaptation and it's an animated one. I could still, like I said, scratch that itch for me of Wes Anderson, like twee sensibilities. So I have to at least give him a shout out as a co-victor, I think.
I do think you're right with the animation, like the tearing up, and there were a lot of really detailed things, even for the type of animation that it was, that are really great.
Yeah.
So I recognize that. That's probably a good call.
Yeah. And I do have an affinity, like, for the stop motion. I didn't watch a lot of the Christmas special, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that kind of stuff, but I did watch some Wallace and Gromit as a kid. Is that something that you're familiar with? No?
I mean, familiar as in I know
it's like the inventor who's a goofball and is it's very British.
Yeah.
What about Chicken Run? Huh?
Mm-mm.
No? Out on Chicken Run? Rachel's the same. Wait, what are the odds I can force Jess to watch Chicken Run as part of this podcast?
We'll see, because, well, I'll wait till we get to the end.
Yeah, we don't have to. Yeah. Do you have a worst performance? Now that can be worst character, or it can be like someone that you didn't think did a very good job.
I mean, this is where I have to say it was a good movie, but I didn't necessarily like it.
Like? I thought you were going to say love. You didn't like it?
Well,
you're like, well, I guess technically, yeah, I can see it, but it's really not, it's just not for you.
I try to be respectful of, like, if it's a bad movie, if like the animation is horrible.
The writing is bad.
Yeah. Those are things that make it a bad movie. But if it's just not my taste and it was well done,
but it didn't resonate with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say there's like really a worst performance for me.
Okay.
Like everything was okay, but because I kept going, like, what the heck's going on? Like, I just know that wasn't.
Yeah. Your head was swimming a little bit. I wrote down the tiny Pennsylvania field mouse that showed up in like one scene when he's listing off everyone's.
I don't even know your Latin name.
Yeah. Well, that one's Pennsylvanicus something.
Oh,
but it's Kylie. He doesn't know the Latin name for the opossum. Yeah, because he's like a New World animal. I was like, that little, what did I write down? The tiny mouse.
He was cute,
He didn't do anything, but he didn't do anything. He had like nunchucks possibly at one point, and that was it. It's the last we saw of him.
I don't understand. Oh, I just lost it. Oh, this is something I didn't understand. The sizing difference in these animals.
Yeah.
And obviously, just proportionately, the whole movie was ridiculous. Like when Fox has the credit card and he's breaking the lock to get into the place. I don't remember where he's getting into specifically, but that is not the size of a credit card. That's not the size of Fox holding a credit card. But then you have to suspend disbelief because obviously a fox is not wearing clothes. So,
and there are times that it zooms out and you can see the foxes are smaller than the people, I think, for sure. But then at other times, like they're riding the clothesline and he's the same size as like a shirt on the clothesline, and foxes are way smaller than that. So,
and like all of the furniture flooding through the sewer system. Yeah, a chair. Gonna go.
A fox-sized chair.
Okay, sure.
A little fox-sized chair.
Yes.
I mean, they pumped the flooding through the sewer system was him pumping cider. He has a hose for the alcoholic cider, which has to be. I mean, that's got to sell for what, $40 a bottle. It's supposed to be high end, it seems like. And then he's just blasting like thousands of dollars worth of merchandise into the
sewer.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of those things made me love it, but
I want a realistic movie. Let's stick
foxes.
with a consistent sizing proportion scheme here. Okay. Wes Anderson, foxes can't cry. No whimsy. You're anti-whimsy.
I'm really not, though, which is very interesting. I mean, Jer, you'd agree. Yeah.
I think he agrees with me. You're anti-whimsy. Do you have a most memorable or favorite scene?
Oh, I really did like the scene at the end when Ash gets to be the athletic guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was all the fun things and his like sort of redeeming scene.
Yeah, it kind of counts as a callback, a little bit of a recurring. Yeah, I also had that one. I had that, but possibly also just the general decoy escape heist. I'm a sucker for the third act, everyone coming together and like all making their one final stand, like the badger and the hare, and everybody comes out and they're throwing the pine cones and they're doing their whole thing. It's like, oh, the friends are all working together. And like, I know that about me, that's a trope that I fall for, but I do like that. And they're all trying to like use their own special animal skills and stuff.
It's very team oriented and inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I'm with you.
That's definitely like my favorite part of like Avengers Endgame, for instance, is like the time heist stuff is a little janky. There's a lot of nebula,
whimsical,
and a lot
perhaps?
of no, it's not whimsical. It's janky. There's a lot of Don Cheadle as Warhammer or whatever. War Machine. Warhammer's the space-based tabletop role-playing game. But then when they all come together, the like on your left cap, and then it's like, oh, all of my friends from before, the other movies that I invested so many hours watching. I like that part of it.
Some endorphins rushing. Yeah.
It always gets me a little bit. Harry Potter, same thing. So we had two of the same most memorable scene. I think that's interesting. I think I already know your answer here. I was going to ask just a little bit of thumbs up, thumbs down at the end. Let's put it this way. Is this a movie that you would watch again?
No, this is a movie.
Immediate no.
Immediate no.
There was no, I was expecting, I couldn't, probably not. No, just no.
Nope. I texted Jeremy while I was watching. I'm like, this is like 120 minutes of my life I will never get back.
Okay, first of all, it was like an hour and a half. Yeah, it wasn't a super long one.
Which I appreciated so much. An hour and a half, whatever.
Wow.
It wasn't the worst, but this is not a movie I would have chosen to watch. And I would have turned it off like 20 minutes in.
Too whimsical. Foxes can't write newspaper articles. Wes Anderson, I have some notes.
I don't know specifically what it was that was just not captivating enough to keep my attention because, again, you can attest, producer Jeremy will tell you that I do not have amazing taste in movies. I can
Episode
buy in,
1 of our movie podcast. I kind of like some janky movies.
I can buy into a lot.
Uh-huh.
And I can accept it for not having to be the most believable thing or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So that means I can like a lot of different films. And I don't know what about this one specifically irritated me so much. I really did want to turn it off, but I was like, Jessica, you committed to doing this podcast with Rogge. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what if all of these movies are like this?
That's awesome. Now I'm going to try to pick movies I love and you don't like. Because I was like, this is a softball. Like, it is so nice and fun. Like, there's nothing angry that's going on here. Like, she's going to really like it. That's hilarious. I
would be open to trying another stop motion movie in the future because I'm almost worried that that's what I didn't like about it.
Interesting. We got to test. We got to not change too many variables. I can't think of any stop motion movies. What's the stop motion movie that I've seen? Chicken Run. 20 years ago. James the Giant Peach? Okay.
I would do James the Giant
Also
Peach.
Roald Dahl. I don't think she likes Roald Dahl. Maybe that's what it is. That's a rhinoceros up in the sky, a cloud rhinoceros. People's names, if they're both his aunts, how are their names Sponge and Spiker? Are those their first names? Are they their last names?
This would be an opportunity for our audience to send us stop motion suggestions.
If you're sitting there with a stop motion movie on your tip of your tongue that you're confident for some reason that one of us has seen and the other one has not. So basically what I'm saying is, Chad, get at us in the comments. Leave us a voicemail. Let us know what stop motion movies you think we should be seeing. Gosh, dang it. Water bottle. I'm so sorry, Jeremy. I would give it a thumbs up. I liked it. I was glad that I was rewatching it. It's only my second time seeing it.
But would you rewatch it a third time?
Yes, I will continue to rewatch it.
Interesting.
Over in the ensuing years. It makes me want to rewatch Grand Budapest Hotel. I've seen Isle of Dogs twice. And I will continue watching. I mean, that's like a dog. Is Isle of Dogs stop motion?
What?
No, maybe. It seems like not crazily dissimilar to Fantastic Mr. Fox for me, but we'll get our stats and info group on that. Is there anything else we want to hit before we go ahead and sign off for this episode?
No, I'm good. I mean, go see it if you want.
It is totally stop motion. Okay, perfect. We'll do
Maybe
Isle
we'll
of
do that
Dogs
one.
like 6 months from now, once you've run through a whole different gamut of the kinds of
palate
movies that I
cleanser.
like. Yeah. That'd be hilarious if I just made you, we're like, no, we're doing Wes Anderson stop action films until you like one of them. So we just want to thank you guys so much for sticking with us through our first episode of Flabbergasted here. We just cannot believe that Jess hadn't seen it. Ask Mr. Fox. Can believe that she didn't love it, but does hurt a little bit. Thanks for listening. Thank you for continuing to subscribe to the Muggles Perspective feed, which I'm assuming this is going to be coming out on, and why you are listening to it for the first time. We'll see. I've heard two schools of thought on it.